Yeah, check that shit out. It sucks. It's 25 degrees Fahrenheit here, because here in America we use Fahrenheit and not the metric system for some reason. But yeah, it's cold and it's windy too, and all the snow and ice and everything. It's a real fucked up situation for those of us who have to drive or just be outside in general. So the title of this one has probably already given it away as to what the content is going to be. I'm probably just going to go over in the other room and just sit. I usually pace, and it's probably annoying, so I will probably not do that this time. My back is kind of hurting anyways. I don't know why. Okay, so. God, I hate my face. Anyways, yeah, we'll talk what I'm actually here to talk about. So, I see this thing going around from time to time, intuitive eating. Frankly, I don't know shit about it. It seems to get talked about a hell of a lot, but it also doesn't seem like there's much agreement on what necessarily it entails. And I think, getting into the other side of today's topic, food addiction, I think there's a problem there in that the sort of lack of structure just isn't really conducive to sort of, how do I put it, positive changes, or where am I going with this? So so in treating addiction, right, you would generally like there to be some sort of structure and accountability and like goals and everything. And I feel like the way a lot of people do it, which again, I don't know if the way that, you usually see people doing it is actually all that true to like the original concept, because I don't know anything about the original concept. But just doing whatever you want, or being like mindful about it, whatever that means. When you already have a problem, it just, you kind of just absolving yourself of responsibility to deal with it, I feel like, in a way. And now that I've said that, I disagree with my wording there. I don't know if responsibility is necessarily the word I want to use, because frankly, if you're in the position that, say, I was in 2 years ago, 2 years ago I didn't give a shit about my eating, not at all. Wasn't moving, completely sedentary lifestyle. I was just over 400 pounds. Was it 2 years? When it was 2019, it's been a while. I guess 3 years ago. September of 2019, I had a doctor's appointment. I remember I weighed in at 404, which is the heaviest I had ever been. And yeah, like I said, I didn't give a shit. I think somewhere in the back of my mind I kind of did, because I know, of course, that like there are a lot of people treat you shitty. It's hard to find clothes that fit you. Even when you do, you don't feel like you look good in them, etc., etc. There are reasons that hardly anyone who gets that big actually enjoys it, but also a lot of the times you don't really feel that motivated to change it. And I was definitely in that camp at that time, where I'd kind of just given up on it and was thinking like, this is just the way my body is for some reason. This is just going to be me forever. Fuck it, who cares kind of mindset. And of course now I feel pretty silly about that, but at the time, given my background and everything, that just seemed to be, fuck, I can't get this, god damn it, I'm trying to like hold this comfortably and also like lean back in the seat, but these like knockoff BDU pants I'm wearing are really slippery on this fake leather, so I'm about to like slide out of the seat. So if I hit the floor, please try not to laugh at me too hard. But so if you're in that position that I was in, if that describes you, I don't feel like you necessarily have a responsibility per se to do fuck all. If that's the way you want to be, I don't give a shit. It's your life. Fuck it. Who cares? Free country, man. I don't give a shit, really. So I'm not gonna act like there's some kind of like moral failure involved there, or like you're dodging some duty to do something different. Whatever. But that said, if you are someone who wants to make some kind of change, I do think you're going to have to go with something a lot more structured and regimented and planned out. Because in particular, like I said, a lot of this to me, it leads back to sort of like the addiction pathways in the brain. You know, we're gonna talk the neurotransmitter type shit today, I guess. So how addiction works is that there's a substance or even sometimes an activity, whatever, that you develop a dependency on, be it chemical or emotional or both, primarily because it affects your neurotransmitters, particularly the reward system in the brain. I think it's dopamine, right? Either dopamine or endorphins. I can't quite remember. One or the other, it just presses that button, the happy button in the brain that says good job. The we're satisfied button. And if you just sit there pressing that button all day, that sort of circuitry is just going to get fried. It's going to get fucked. And so it's not going to work right anymore. And so you're just going to want more and more and more and more and more of that same shit just to get the same sort of rush or pick-me-up that you used to at the beginning. And it comes to a point where your idea of what feels normal is just so completely warped and distorted beyond what is actually normal that your perspective is just fucking gone. Because you have just... I mean, if it's your fault or not, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say like, oh, you fucked up. This is your problem. Your fault. You did this, blah, blah, blah. But I'm just saying after you get to that point, whether you like it or not, like things are just kind of fucking screwed up really tremendously. And so reversing that is an extremely difficult in an emotional and like willpower sense. And time consuming. It takes a really long time and a lot of work and just sheer balls to the wall fucking willpower to come back from that. And even then, even years down the road, you're not going to be totally cravings free. And there are a lot of you watching this that have had addiction backgrounds regarding like pills or illegal drugs or something. And a lot of this might sound familiar to you. You might be thinking like, yeah, I've been clean for say like 3 years and I still sometimes get cravings. I can't hear certain words, I can't see certain things, I can't be in certain places without thinking like, fuck. Like, if I had some, I would do it. And I feel like that's kind of a lot of the same here. The problem is, of course, is that you don't need any like, you don't need OxyContin, for example. You don't need it to live. I mean, if you're so chemically dependent, quitting cold turkey might put you in the hospital, might even kill you, I think. I'm not sure. There are some substances that, yeah, once you get to a certain point into chemical dependency, quitting them cold turkey will fucking hurt you, potentially kill you. But what I mean is, even someone who is, in this context, completely sober, you can't stop eating food, like, totally for good. Even after, like, the initial withdrawals, even after you wean yourself off, there's no end point where it's just like, oh, I've been food free for 5 years. Like, no, you're gonna die. That's starving to death. You don't do that. So the problem is you need to restructure your relationship with food in which you can have food and you can feel, find enough in your life, like emotionally speaking. Like, it's not like you're just pulling the rug out from under yourself on whatever emotional crutch you're using it for. And you need to have that in a sustainable way, long term, really long term. But you also have to, at the same time, like, you're still eating, you're still having food, and you can still enjoy your food too, but you have to be careful about how you're doing that and how much, how often, etc. So I'm going to have to cut the video here because for some reason my phone has a 10-minute time limit. This has been an issue in the past couple episodes just because I'm shooting in higher quality, because I figure that's like the cool YouTube thing to do is everyone wants HD so you can see all the pores in my ugly, fucked up Shrek face. So anyways, I'm going to cut here and do a little bit more thinking because I'm going to come back with some more thoughts because there was definitely some more I wanted to get into. So see you after the cut. All right, so I'm back and we're going to get right back into it with something sort of embarrassing to talk about. But my own perspective on all of this shit. Of course, I've never done the intuitive eating thing. I hadn't even heard of it until I was already like over a year into my current sort of program. So I can't speak to that personally. But what I can speak to is the food addiction side of all of this. In particular, I don't know that it's really just food in general necessarily that has like the addictive quality for me, but particular types of food. And for me personally, I was never a sweets kind of person. Like cake or brownies or anything like that didn't really do it for me. I probably crave it more now than ever just because I don't really take in shit all sugar anymore. So, but it's really embarrassing to say because this is always like the joke everyone says that, of course, when you're fat, like growing up, kids will make fun of you like, oh, if you would just put the fucking burger down and go for a run, blah, blah, blah. I wasn't really much into burgers, but still fast food in general, yeah, was definitely kind of almost, I want to say, like a cornerstone of my food addiction. Because especially once I got to the point where I could drive and I was working a job, so I could go get whatever fucking gross bullshit fast food I wanted at any time, and there was no one to tell me otherwise. I just had the ability and the freedom, and so like a lot of the sort of between when I started driving until I started this program, like I don't even want to think about how much money I wasted, how much gas I burned, and especially, of course, how much damage I did to my body. Just eating fast food way beyond what any person ever should. Probably, ideally, you would have it never. But of course, in the first world, America in particular, you're doing pretty good if you can just stick to doing it occasionally. The thing is, you get cravings for that shit, but I can't, for the life of me, really decipher why. Like, what is it that draws me to it? Of course, like, coming from the intuitive eating thing, like, a lot of people are like, if you crave something, then maybe there's some reason your body wants it. Maybe there's something, some nutrient there that it wants or needs. But the thing is, I've rarely had cravings for anything, like, genuinely nutritious. So, clearly, like I was saying, that reward pathway in my brain has been fucking fried. Because it's not about like what's good for me. My body isn't signaling like I want this because we're deficient in this nutrient. No, it's gotta be. I'm thinking it's number one, maybe the salt. Number two, maybe it's the fats. Number three, maybe it's the fucking additives like the MSG and shit. Which me personally, I don't think MSG is fucking the devil necessarily. I think there's been a lot of mythology. Perpetuated maybe is the word I'm looking for. I can't think right now. I think there's been a lot of fear-mongering involved with MSG. It's not great for you, but it's not particularly much worse than having like a shitload of salt, I feel like, as far as I'm aware. So anyways, yeah, there's a lot of shit that they put in that food. To make it more appealing, to sell it, because they want you to go and buy more of it because it makes them money. So, I don't know if it is those additives or the salt, the sugar, the fats, or any combination of all that stuff. Because if you look at it, I actually looked it up right before this. So, for example, a 10-piece McNugget, for example, McDonald's 10-piece nuggets, 480 calories. And 25 grams of protein. Because I think protein is one of the most important macronutrients. It's one of the most filling. And it also, like, for me, for example, I lift weights, all that shit. So I'm concerned with at least maintaining, if not building, muscle. And you need protein to do that. It's a certain amount of it. Not just, a little bit, but like a good bit of protein. So 25 grams for 480 calories. One of these, this was part of my breakfast this morning. I hope it's not backwards in the final recording. It's a protein shake. It's just fucking Walmart store brand. It is 170 calories and 30 grams of protein. So 5 more grams of protein for a little bit over 1/3 of the fucking calories. And also, in addition, the label here is just fucking stacked with vitamins and minerals and shit like that. So that one shake is vastly more nutritious in almost every sense than a 10-piece nugget. It just has fewer carbs and a hell of a lot less fat. And as a result, way less calories. So why would I crave that shit, and yet I almost never have a genuine craving for this? Like, I'll fucking drink them because I know that, like, they're good for me, they're filling. It's a good way to squeeze in more protein on as tight of a caloric budget as I've got. And clearly it's working for me. You can see, I mean, just go back and look at any of my earlier videos. You can visually see the difference in me. So why is it that I never really sit and think like, fuck, I really want one of those protein shakes? But I still get cravings for fucking shit-ass fast food that offers me almost no nutritional content of like real value, especially compared to like actual food. So yeah, I think that's something to think about really. Is I feel like in a lot of ways the sort of addiction model for this problem is maybe downplayed a lot. You hear it mentioned from time to time, but I feel like people don't really talk about it a lot. Like in particular, if you look at like, so I was watching some videos before this, and that's usually what makes me start to think about this stuff and want to record something. But I was watching videos of, you know, the usual suspects again. I don't want to name any names, but like big, like huge names on YouTube that are ostensibly weight loss YouTubers, but they don't ever actually lose much weight. And of course, so they get talked about a lot, kind of as like a running joke, frankly, which is sad. But yeah, they have like whole ass drama channels following them and everything. And so I was watching some of that. It's trash content, and I shouldn't watch it. But I feel like a lot of these people have many things in common in terms of like, they seem to have sort of unsteady relationships with their romantic partners, or they choose really fucked up toxic romantic partners, and they are themselves really toxic, manipulative people as well. And it just, a lot of it is just like, this is addiction. This is what addiction looks like. This is how addicts act. Like, there's clearly a huge mental health component here that begins this problem in the first place, but also as the sort of, I don't know how to describe it, binge eating or whatever continues, and the person gets bigger and the whole thing just spirals out of control, the original underlying emotional root causes tie in to these new emotional challenges that come with being big in this society, and the health problems and the lack of physical ability that comes with it. Like, all of that sort of intermingles with the original problem, the original psychological problem, and creates this whole new set of these fucked up, interconnected sort of, I don't know, the fucking, I was about to say neuroses, but I don't know if that's really going to describe it properly. But you know, like, it becomes this spider web of just general fucked upness. And it feels like if you're not going to at least try to start untangling that and sort of working through the mess, you know, from where it is now back towards the beginning and start to get into the root of it, if you're not going to tackle all of that and like really put some work into it, then I feel like you're not going to have much success in addressing the problem anyways. Like, the diets are going to fail out of a lack of willpower, and just because of how deep you are in the addiction. Like, an addiction is hard to kick, and if you're not addressing anything except like just the symptom, or just trying to like, you know, cut back on it without thinking about any of the mental work at all, like, you're really setting yourself up to fail. I'm gonna have to cut it again, so be right back. So anyways, it's like fucked up to me that, going back to like being made fun of as a kid and everything, that people would say shit like, oh, it's just so easy, just put down the fucking McDouble and go for a run. And it's like, no, it's not that easy. It's not remotely that easy. Because, I mean, scientifically speaking, biologically speaking, it technically kind of is. If you eat less and move more, of course you're going to lose weight. Sure, but doing that, actually finding it within yourself to do that, is not something that you just fucking go, oh, well, I'm sick of this being fat thing, I'm just gonna stop. Like, no, that's not how it works. That's not remotely how it works. In my case in particular, honestly, I don't know that I ever actually did the mental work, which does worry me. Because I don't know where the problem came from, really. You can say that part of it probably is just that, I grew up in a household where everyone was big, and so, like, those sort of eating habits were just the norm for me, like, from birth, basically. Like, the way my family ate was always going to be the way that I ate, and my family ate badly, so... But, of course, like, I don't want to cast blame on my parents, and there comes a point, when you get to a certain age, you start to have more of your own autonomy, that you can change that if you so choose. But again, it's not as easy as just saying that makes it sound. Because, like I said, it really does become an addiction problem. Regardless of necessarily what the root is, I was still at that point where those reward pathways in my brain were fucking shot. So I got there one way or another. But the problem is just, of course, like, was that all it was? That, like, I grew up with poor eating habits and that just kind of did it? Was there, like, an emotional thing that I have still yet not addressed? Sorry, I was looking at the camera feed because of, like, a snowdrift just fucking fell over, and it looked like somebody threw something over the gate for a second, and I was like, what the fuck? That threw me off. But yeah, I never knew if there was more of an emotional component or if it was mostly a habitual one that turned into, those ruined addiction mindset in my brain. I don't know. But one way or another, the only reason I've been able to do this is because I actively fight, like, constant, terrible cravings. Like, this is not... As much as I say this to people sometimes, and I feel like it comes off weird, but I say that the way that I'm dieting, really, I don't have necessarily hard and fast rules. It's mostly just portion control and physical activity. And so, conceptually, it's actually really simple. But simple does not mean easy. It's extremely, extremely difficult from a practical sense. Just because, like I said, I want to eat right now. I'm hungry as fuck, but I'm not due to have lunch for another 2 hours. So I have to just keep myself entertained and hold off for another 2 hours, or else I'll fuck up my meal timing for the whole day. Because that's another part of my diet, is that it is portion control. Technically, I have my budget set to 1,800 calories, which I know that I undercount, which is a chronic problem that most people have. If you're not weighing everything out, and I mean everything, down to the fucking gram on an accurate scale, you are undercounting. Probably to the tune of some hundreds of calories. But anyways, I'm not anal enough to do that, so I just set my budget a little lower, which is probably bad, so don't follow my example there. But anyways, I have it set to 1,800 right now. As long as I fall roughly within that budget, within a 24-hour time period, and I consistently do that, I will lose weight. But the thing is, if I eat up my 1,800 for the day by like 2 p.m., I have the entire rest of the day that I'm awake to just sit there and be hungry. And I can't resist that. Like, if I get to the point where I have like 8 to 12 hours of like being awake left in the day, and I'm already blown through my budget, I'm not going to be able to keep myself from eating until the next day when I can start over. Like, I don't have it in me. So on a day like that, if I blow through all 1,800 calories of my daily budget midway through the day, and I still have hours and hours before I'm going to go to bed, I'm going to end up over my budget for the day. I'm going to end up having another meal. So I have to space out my meals at least 5 hours apart, if not six, seven, or even eight, to make sure that I'm not eating all of my budget right away and then spending the rest of the day hungry. Because when I get to that point, I can't fight the binge impulses anymore. I will absolutely fuck up my diet for the day. So yeah, I'm fighting that. I'm fighting that urge right now. I could absolutely just, my lunch is in the fridge, right in the other room. You see the fridge as I walk nervously past it whenever I'm usually recording. I could just go grab it, pop it in the microwave, and start eating. But I'm resisting that because I have to. Because if I don't, then I'm gonna struggle to lose weight. And if I struggle too hard, I'm just gonna cave. So yeah, that's an example right there. Usually, I have my dad drive me here today because the roads are so bad, and my car does not have four-wheel drive. So luckily, my dad was available. His truck handles this shit fine. So, as much as any civilian vehicle does. So I don't have my car with me. But if I were, usually what happens is by the time I leave this place, if I'm hungry by the time I leave work, then on the way home, I have a huge temptation to stop and get fast food again. Which of course I have to fight. Sometimes I'll still do it. But usually what I'll do is there's a seafood chain around here. It's not a nationwide thing, and I'm sure it's not anywhere other than the US, called Captain D's. This is really fucking embarrassing for me because I'm so used to being made fun of for this, but I'm trying to admit this and show you the truth of this situation. I'll just go there and get a grilled salmon meal. It comes with rice and like a bread roll, and you can pick two sides. And they have everything from like fucking macaroni and cheese to, fries or whatever. I'll just get the green beans. So it's just like green beans and sort of like chicken broth, I guess, with little ham bits that I usually pick out because I just don't like them. Sometimes I'll even just throw the roll away. And so even with the roll, the whole meal is like 500 some calories, according to their website anyways. So that's still not terrible. It's pretty low protein for 500 some calories. It's like 20 something, 30 something grams, which is not what I would prefer. But if it's, that, or like I'm going to end up stopping somewhere shittier and getting like fucking over 1,000 calories of food, I'd rather just take the fucking grilled salmon meal and say, look, I indulged my fast food craving. There, we're done. we don't need to do that again. But most days anymore, I'm to the point where I can fight it off and just wait until I get home and have like one of my meal prep containers or Lean Cuisine or something. Because of course I will be getting more protein and like more actual nutrition in the form of like home cooked food for less calories. And that makes my diet a lot easier. So if I can fight that temptation, that helps tremendously. So there's a lot of things like that where if I trusted my intuition, I know I would be fucked because my intuition at this point is just completely gone. It's not like a practical or positive influence, really. It's those fried addiction pathways in my brain just screaming, we want like a bucket of shit-ass food, all just straight up grease and breading and batter and shit. That's what you want. And it's like, as much as that might be tasty, no, I don't want that. I kind of like how I've changed my life recently. I don't know. I really wish, honestly, that I could figure out what exactly it is that draws me into that shit and see if there was some way I could kind of put it into my own food, just not to the same extent, so that I can still, like, if I could make myself crave, like, chicken breast and broccoli the same way that I crave that other bullshit, I would be fucking set. If I could train myself to want that shit the same way, I would be golden. But the problem is, the same things that make that chicken breast and broccoli so healthy for me also probably preclude it from being that addictive as well. Like, it's probably the fucking, like, straight up animal fat, like, probably like lard or like, I don't know, bacon grease or some shit is probably what they use at the fast food places. It might be that I'm wanting, and of course I can't just go sticking that in all of my food. Like, I'll fuck up my cholesterol, and it would it would jack up the calories. I'd be adding a bunch of fat to my food that just wasn't there before. So I can't do that. MSG I will use in my cooking sometimes, but it just doesn't do that. So I don't think it's the MSG necessarily. I wonder if there's another additive, or if it really is just the fact that it's soaked in fucking animal fat and deep fried, and probably also some of the sugar as well, and like the breading and batter and everything. I don't bread or batter or deep fry any of my own like home cooked food, because again that would go a long way towards defeating the purpose of this whole diet situation if I did that. So I can't do any of those things. But God, I just wish there was something like MSG, but like, you know, actually the scary chemical weapon that people make it out to be, instead of the relatively harmless thing that it is. If there was something that I could just sprinkle on my food that didn't really do much to it, like nutritionally, but like really made it tickle that same fucking impulse in the brain, that would be a fucking lifesaver. I would love that. Because I'd be putting that shit on like salad and like the chicken breast and shrimp and stuff. Oh my God, that would be such a cheat. That would be a game changer. But I'm not sure such a thing exists. I think that my body just wants me to eat buckets of animal fat and fucking like carbs. Which I still eat carbs. It's not like I'm doing keto, but the thing is, like, you know, I'll have like a half cup of cooked brown rice, or maybe not even that much, with like a thin sliced chicken breast and like a couple good handfuls of like roasted broccoli. So it's fairly low carb, but of course that part of my brain just wants more. It wants a lot more, and it wants it to be fried in fucking like bacon grease or some shit. Of course I can't do that. So yeah, I have to fight my urges at any point instead of listening to them, or else I'm not going to get anywhere. Maybe someday, years down the line, and I'm talking like a decade or more probably, maybe someday I'll start to have like actual sensible cravings. Like, oh, I could really go for like, you know, a fucking... Well, like one thing I'll do is like what is it, like a caprese salad basically. You know, you get slices of mozzarella, tomato, and I think basil or whatever. I do something that's kind of derived from that, where it's not arranged nearly as prettily, but really it's a bowl of fucking spinach basically, and I'll put on green onions and a little bit of shredded mozzarella, not a lot, not any more than like half an ounce. And just a little drizzle of olive oil and some grape or cherry tomatoes and cucumber. Maybe sometimes if you want like banana peppers or something, fucking knock yourself out. And then just, you know, some like generic Italian seasoning mix or whatever, salt and pepper, and a little sprinkle of lemon juice. If I could just like get to the point where I had cravings for that, where I was just sitting there thinking, fuck, I could really go for one of those salads right now. Maybe I might get there one day. Maybe I will. But for now, I'm not. And so for now, I still feel like I'm in that sort of addiction mindset of like actively going through the process of trying to restructure myself. And, you know, you have to keep in mind that I'm saying that, you know, this started for me in December of 2020. It's March of 2022. So I've already been at this a while, and that's still going on in my mind. I don't say that to be like, that's how daunting and terrible this is. Like, if you don't think you can hold up to that, then don't even try. It's so bad. Like, no, I'm not trying to make people feel that way. It is really hard, and you do need to be aware that it takes just a tremendous amount of work. But the thing is, 2 years ago, I felt like I would never have the willpower. And there are still many days when I feel like I don't. Because you saw the video the other day where I first mentioned cutting my budget down another 200 calories from 2,000 to 1,800. And I didn't really know at the time if I would have the willpower to go through with that, honestly. But I'm managing surprisingly well so far. I feel fine. And that, yeah, like I said, that kind of surprises me. But that's the thing is like, I kind of got derailed mentally. I'm not gonna lie. Shit. But you know, okay. I know where I was going with that. Sorry. Fucking squirrel brain over here. Um, the fact of the matter is, I've always considered myself a really weak person, and I still continue to think that I'm nothing special, like mentally or emotionally. Um, so if I can do it, you know, I really think you could too, whoever the fuck you are. I don't care who you are. Chances are you're probably made of tougher stuff than I am. And yet here I am. So I guess that's my challenge to you is to prove me wrong. Like give it an actual, honest, genuine try for a long period of time. And by a long period of time, I don't mean a week. I don't even mean a month. Try 2 or 3. And if you try that and fail, I would still think that you could still do it. You're just not nailing it the first time because I never did. Oh God, I can't begin to tell you how many times I tried to make a change, and I gave it. I didn't. I probably never lasted a month before I would give up. That's how weak I am, and here I am. So, suck on it, bitch. Sorry, I just don't know. I don't know. I'm not much of a public speaker, I guess. I'm not much of an entertainer either. I'm not the most charismatic person in the world, but I'm just trying to say, like, don't give up on yourself. It's going to be tremendously hard, but at the same time, don't let that stop you. And even if it doesn't seem to work at first, don't let that stop you. It's not over until it's over. As long as the blood is moving in your veins and your body is to some extent warm, then you have another shot. So always keep that in mind. And I guess with that, I'm just going to leave you because at this point I'm going way off track. I'm going to keep pacing nervously around the building and trying to keep myself entertained until 2 o'clock rolls around and it's time for me to have my lunch. So I'll see you next time.